Yeah. Music is part of human nature. Even before words became words, the basis of our very existence has to do with rhythm, with sounds. So for us, where that music originated, it originated from the very creativity of the humankind. It originated from the very hardship met by people who had to live a form of cultural genocide because their words, their language didn't mean much for the colonizers. And then what did they do? They reacted by creating a new language. They reacted by creating a new form of music, which now we term the Sega Tipic. When we talk about music today, we tend to look at it in terms of a leisure. People go for music to dance, to play, to sing. It forms part of leisure activities. But that hasn't been the same for the Sega Tipic. For the Sega Tipic, it was a means for survival. When you look at the structure of the music itself, it has specificities. It starts with what we call the lapel, meaning that when they started to express themselves, it could be one person in a whole region with his Ravanne, and with starting hitting on that Ravanne, that was the call, and the whole region would come in. The whole region would feel that appeal to them. So they came in, they gathered around a firewood. They gathered, and the second part of that Sega Tipic started with what we call the appellation. It is that slow movement whereby the words are more important than the rhythm, because things had to be said, statements had to be made, all the miseries had to be counted, and they did it through that appellation. This is how people that are now indulging in promoting Sega Tipic, they are good storytellers. They know how to speak. They are good orators. When they speak, their words are full of meaning. And then when they speak on a rhythm, it gives more force, more pertinence to what they say. This is what it is all about, listening to an appellation. Pam papa, papam papa, papa papa, pam papa, papam papa, papa papa. Zoana mon petit cerf, attends le soleil tomber. Zoana, my little sister, wait for the sun to come down, and then we'll go in the cane field to harvest potatoes. That big machine have already taken away, but there are so many of those potatoes in the fields that can still feed us. These are the stories behind that appellation. And then the second part of it would be that rapid rhythm, which would take up again and again what has been said in the appellation. When you went into that rolling part of it, we call it, that roulé, people went into catharsis. They had this opportunity of purging themselves, purging their mind of all those emotions that they couldn't digest, because slavery was atrocious. So they didn't have any other way, because they were human beings, they had a mind, they could sense injustice, but emotional injustice, resistance, could only be cured, treated through a form of what today we would call psychotherapy. This is why we form part of those who believe that Sega Tipic is art therapy, in the sense that you go deep into the emotions, you go into the unconscious. The goat skin is the second skin of the individual, and as practitioners we do feel it. When we have that Ravanne in our hands, it becomes clearly our second skin. Do whatever you wish. We are unattainable as far as oppression or repression is concerned when we are with that musical instrument. For sure, that music was not tolerated at all In the first place, it occurred in the woods. It occurred in the hiding. But then, when resistance occurred, that force was able to get mainstream. But of course, with the power of religion, in particular the Catholic religion, they did everything to equate catharsis with evil. So that was the hard part of it, because when you study history, when you study the history of Sega Tipic, you find that clearly there has been a big level of recuperation of this form of music, which has been somehow purged from its capacity to heal as well. So there is a sort of a paradox between the Ravanne, the Sega Tipic music gaining adherence to the mainstream music and its very nature getting deteriorated in some form, because it has lost at least one of its components. The actual generation has an sort of obligation to work on it, to bring its own contribution, for it to be meaningful. Because the point is that very often we believe that we just have to go and collect things and just put it in a museum and the work is done. But when you visit many museums, you'll see that those objects, those elements, they have no significance, they have no meaning, they don't have real meaning to people. They are just inanimate objects. The why of this situation is that, indeed, the actual generation hasn't had a say in transforming, in giving new meaning to those elements. So, having understood this core element, this core concept in the convention, at ABAIM, we work with children, and we make it our duty for children to be able to give their appreciation, their contribution in creation and recreation. We believe that we are not creators as such. Everything has already been created. We are just contributors. We did work around 14 songs here, inspired by the rhythm, by the music, but they were all songs that pertain to everyday life of today.